Hi guys, my name is Ivans, and today I'll be taking you through my Unreal Engine project and FMOD, showing the technical side of sound design. I hope you enjoy. Let's dive into this. Alright, let's start and have a quick look at how the sound is programmed inside Unreal Engine. By the way, huge shout out to John Kelleher and Air Wiggles for creating this game. We have audio event sections for basic ship movement, flyby, music, ship boosting, shooting lasers, and damaging asteroids. So in short, when the state of the thruster changes to active, we hear this sound. And when it changes to the opposite, we hear that sound. The faster the ship goes, the louder we hear the thrusters. When we steer right, we hear the sound of the main thruster shifting a little bit to the left, and vice versa. And we're also adding some changes when steering up or down with the steer Y. And we also have sound just for steering. The logic is that when we only steer to the right, or for example up, we hear the sound thrusters working at a 50% capacity. And when we are steering in two directions, we have them working at 100% capacity. Flybys here are pretty simple because most of the logic is happening inside of FMOD. Here we just have an invisible sphere around a spaceship, and whenever an asteroid comes close, it starts emitting some noise, and the closer it's getting to us, the louder we hear the noise. When boosting, we basically have two things going on. First, we're playing the boost sound, and then starts the accelerated booster loop. We can enable or disable the music by pressing the key M. The music system itself is adaptive and has 3 intensity stages. If we're standing still, the music is calm and washed away in reverb. If we start moving, we hear some drums. And then when we start boosting, we have the transition to the maximum intensity part. Alright, next up we have collision sounds when we're smashing into the asteroids. The intensity of the collision is also connected to the speed parameters. The faster we smash into something, the louder we hear the impact. Now the lasers. I just decided to use the most basic logic. When we shoot the laser, we hear the sound. As you can see here, I've tried a couple of other approaches, but I think this one just works the best in this scenario. Last but not least, when we damage an asteroid, sounds like that, hitting them with the laser, and the explosion sound. Now let's look at some sound design inside FMOD. Here we have basically all the events, which are pretty much when something is happening in the game. Sound-wise. Like this one, just some noise with spaceship beep boop sounds, and it's very quiet in the background. We also have some radio conversation noise that has a 50% chance of triggering with each black, just to make some more variety. In the same event, I've placed the welcome message that we first hear when the game starts.
Greetings, Commander.
It's only played in the first loop, and once it gets to the command instrument, it gets switched off for all the following loops. For the most sounds, I've designed 3 to 4 versions, like an asteroid hit sound, starting to boost, shooting the lasers, and so on. As you can see, they also often include additional layers that help to add some more depth to the sound. Like in this explosion, we have the main explosion sound, the secondary sound, the texture, and the tail. That all together sounds like this. Now let's look at the engine event, which is basically the sound of the main thruster. Here we have 4 types of noise that are basically controlled by the speed parameter. As I move the parameter, you can hear the changes in the sound intensity. Also on the group bus, I'm using the surround banner to control the stereo width, so that when we go slower, we hear the sound more narrow. And when we go faster, we have the full open sound. In addition to all that, we have the boost acceleration sound, which starts playing when we start boosting. It contains the cinematic stinger sound, 2 effect sounds, and the main acceleration sound that I've made in Ableton. It starts pitching up, and then it just loops at the end, and once we're stopping boosting, we just switch it off. And then another movement velocity control parameter is the collision sound. And then the flybys, which are basically the white noise with some Doppler effects, and that's it. Really simple. How do you even make adaptive music? When I first got into sound design, I could not wrap my head around it. But it's pretty easy, it's not that difficult. Let me show you. Here in the FMOD timeline, I have my Ableton exported stems. I didn't want a super complex music system, so I only made 3 basic states. In the initial state 0, the track is being looped in the first loop region with some basic reverb and low-pass filtering. When we start moving, we're switching to state 1, we're removing the filter, removing the reverb, and adding in some drums and bass. And then when we hit the boost, we're moving to the transition fill, leading on to the second loop region, which is the maximum intensity part, where we continue looping until the music state changes either back to 1 or 0. And lastly, we have the effects on starting and stopping the music playback. So when we start playing the music, I made this glitchy effect, which is basically the high-pass filter controlled by some noisy LFO modulation. On the outro, I have a simple pitch down effect controlled by the ADHSR, so that whenever we stop playing, the release parameter is moving the pitch and volume down. And that is what it sounds like in the game with the effect. You will not be able to put in all your fancy plugins, so make sure to make the song sound good before you put it into the middleware or engine. However, of course, you still have some basic effects that you can use to control how things sound. In this case, all I did for mastering was just putting a compressor and a limiter. It sounded pretty good. Now, if we open the mixture view, we can see the sound processing hierarchy. The VCAs control the sound volume of their corresponding groups. I'm only using the music VCA in the speech snapshot to control the volume of the music, turning it down when the speech happens. The snapshot is being enabled in the event instance of the welcome message. In the SFX group sections, besides some common processing, I'm also using ducking, aka sidechain, for giving more space to more important sounds. Your music and sound design are screwing up the game and you didn't even know about it? Well, you're probably not using the profiler. The profiler lets you record, track, and analyze various performance statistics of your mix, including CPU, memory load, volume loudness, voicing, and much more. To make sure you're not overloading your player's system with heavy sound design, overloaded music, or just clipping, you can access all that information right here in the profile section in FMOD, just like in Wise, pretty much. If you look at the CPU, you can see that it's peaking at a way higher while right here, as opposed to this one here. And of course, that means that it's taking way less processing power, which is exactly what we are aiming for, meaning the game will be performing better and taking up less resources. Thank you for watching all the way to this point, and I'm hoping to see you in the next video where I'll be talking about the more of a creative side of things. But as of now, you have a great day.